All right. Good morning. Today I'm going to be talking about my internship experience with SVN Miller Commercial Real Estate. So, a little bit more about SVN Miller themselves. They were founded in the 80s by Brent Miller, who is the current director of the brokerage. They are obviously in the commercial real estate industry. They have 23 full-time advisors in 3 different offices. And they are in Delaware, Easton, and they are also, of course, here in Salisbury. They serve as a brokerage for retail, office land, industrial, medical, self-storage, and there were others. They don't just do one specific area, they do the whole thing. SVN also provides property management and leasing services, and this is some of their busiest work. They have a ton of clients here. They manage a lot of their own properties, and then they also, when they sell properties, they include that as a potential package if that's something that the seller would be interested in, or the buyer. So the first goal that I came up with before I actually did my internship was that I wanted to practice and improve upon my decision-making skills. I tend to get hesitant and wait kind of for the first mover. I'm a little nervous to be that first mover myself, so normally I'll wait for somebody to go, and I wanted to improve on this. I wanted to become a better decision maker in the moment, going with this decision, my decision, and going with it. So that was the first goal that I came up with. And then to meet that goal, my plan was to be concise in my actions and decision making, obviously. But then I tend to fall into the paralysis by analysis situation a lot, and it tends to hurt. So my second goal was actually to utilize something we learned in BUAD 300, using the Myers-Briggs test and figuring out what our personality type is and how we can make it work, what we like, strengths, weaknesses, all of that, and integrate that into my internship. So what I wanted to do is, normally wherever I work, and this is pretty normal for everybody, is they have maybe somebody they don't get along with, somebody they're not as compatible with, it's something just isn't right. And I didn't want that to be the case this time. I wanted to be active in, if I recognize that this situation is happening, I want to be sure that I get to know this person, that I meet this person, I sit down with them, I get to know them, and just make sure that a situation like that doesn't even happen. So that was my goal, and later on I'll fill you in on what exactly happened with that. And finally, my last goal was to continue my own professional development. The biggest thing coming into this internship is, before I started, I knew some of the guys that worked there at SVN Miller. I knew Brent Miller, and he is seen around the school. They're always dressed up. They're always at the nice events. Any business event, anything in the Purdue school, they're normally there, or at least some of the advisors are. And again, they're always professional. It's something that I looked up to before I even really know who they were. So in choosing this internship with SVN Miller, I knew that this was something that I would want to work on and learn from, how to get better at, how to maintain, and just, really pick their brain and anybody's brain in the office on, continuing professional development, even if they're 10, 20, 30 years my senior. My experience with SVN Miller was phenomenal. I consider myself to be one of the lucky ones who got a great match of intern and worksite, and those two came together. I met a ton of great people, and I got to do a lot. So the first thing was the tenant and the tenant representative research project. So this was me hunting down, tracking down clients, potential clients, to create this list, this database, so that anytime any of the advisors wanted, they could go into this list and look exactly what they were looking for. So I put down name, address, what kind of retail sector they're in, and that sort of thing. And that was a continuous project. I started that on day one, and I was still working on it in the last week. So I continue to work on that, and that's been a ton of fun. The next one has been the Chamber of Commerce for Salisbury and Ocean City. I've taken these lists, people on these lists, I've gone through them, I've sifted through all of it, I've called people, all of it. This was a really fun project because it's similar, basically the same guiding principle as the tenant research project. Same ideas all apply here. I'm going in the lists and I'm making a database that makes the advisors' lives easier. I was able to attend some confidential sales meetings. This was probably my second favorite part of the internship. I got to sit in on a real sales meeting. They were the guys asked if I could be in there with the other clients that they were meeting with. That the client said yes. I just got to sit there and take part in it, or not take part, but take a very passive part in it. And it was really cool. You get to see how real true business is done, and that was something that I was really interested in and I thought was super cool. I was also allowed to go on some property ride-alongs. So we would go out, we'd look at properties, maybe some buildings that SVN Miller was thinking about acquiring, maybe buying, selling, listing. There's a whole world. But I got to go out with Brent Miller and Tunney Inslee and look at some properties. And that was a really, really cool experience to see what they look at, what they look for, that whole world. It was pretty cool. And then the last one is my main research project for the semester. And this was the gargantuan one. So I was looking up environmental people, architects, accountants, lawyers, CPAs, attorneys, business development people, engineers, pretty much anyone you can think of on the Eastern Shore here for SVN Miller. This list included all of those people, all the people on those lists were for the purpose of SVN's advancement, or SVN Miller's advancement. So that was the project that I was initially tasked with, and it definitely gave me the most fits, but it was a great project. So, transitioning into some positives and negatives of my internship, we'll start with the bad first, and then we'll hit the good. So some of the negatives, again, let me preface this with I had a great experience and a great internship. The negatives were things that I really, honestly had to think about to put together. And this is what I came up with. So the first one is that some projects were extremely difficult to complete, borderline impossible, since they're a continuously growing list. But some were pretty tough. Some of the information we had to look up was hard to find, hard to locate. You didn't really have a starting point, so it was really just figuring it all out from there. The second thing was that those same projects typically got pretty dry after a while. If it was something that I was working on, and say I've been working on it, for that week, and come Friday I could tell there was still a good amount to do, or that would have to be done. The information really started to get dry. So I tried to limit my work on those projects and just try to get as much focused work into them as possible. But, it happens. You're always going to have some dry spots. And then the last negative was my intern schedule. This is my fault, but something that, this is a giveaway slide, but, if I could do it all over again, this would definitely be changed. And then now to the positives, the work environment. I love the people, love the office, love the location. The company culture, and on the corporate and the local levels. So the emails that we get from corporate, everything was super nice, super friendly. And then obviously on the local level here, their offices, the culture is just phenomenal. It's great. Everybody gets along, everybody's having a good time, but everybody's there to get stuff done. The office location to me was one of the positives. I love downtown Salisbury. It was really cool to be able to work down there 3 times a week. And then the last one is the commitment to the community. SVN Miller's advisors are all over Salisbury University, especially in the Purdue School. Anytime there's an event, I know I touched on this a little already, but they are always there. They are committed to the community, and that was something that I was really, really impressed with. So, what would I do differently? Well, first of all, I would absolutely do the internship again. The first thing I would do is I would do the internship in the summer. This would let me focus on the internship and not worry about hectic scheduling errors or time or anything like that, or not have to worry about school and class, not have to worry about tennis as we're in full swing of the season in the spring, and then I have a couple jobs off campus as well. So I would try to do it in a less logjam time. I would ask more questions up front. I kind of struggled at first because I didn't really know where anything was who, all this, and I was kind of nervous to ask those questions. But I was trying to improve the decision-making skills. I, just went up, introduced myself, and then, if I had a question, I'd just ask it. There's no such thing as a dumb question. I was told. So I'm happy that I asked the questions that I did, but I definitely would ask a lot more going back. And then that's really it. I was fortunate. Amidst all the craziness, I had a smooth transition. but I would absolutely intern with SVN Miller again. So, were my goals and expectations met? Well, I would say yes. I would say I have much better professionalism because of the little things like the work attire, the routine at work, the general personal maintenance, which, is questionable right now, obviously, but crazy times. I learned a ton about being a professional. Even when you're not in the office, you are always being seen, if that makes sense. Your reputation, your image is always on display, and it represents SVN Miller's as well. So I was fortunate to learn a great deal from Brent with that. I was able to work with someone who I wasn't immediately compatible with, and they ended up being a great mentor to me. I got to know him a little bit more. We had a lunch, like a lunch date at one point, and it was really cool. At first I could feel that like I was kind of hesitant to get to know this guy. I didn't get the right like first initial feeling, I guess, whatever. And I made the decision to not let that stay that way the rest of the semester. So I got to know him, and we ended up being pretty close. So I was very happy with that result. And then the last one is the decision-making skills. I'd say I improved them throughout the internship because most of the time I, had to pull the trigger on many of my own projects. My projects hadn't really been done before, and they needed the information. And if I had a question or I was unsure, if I couldn't ask or I felt like it was kind of like, something that wasn't really answerable or they might not know, I just went for it and I made my decision my way, and the results turned out great. For my other info, I decided to do 3 final takeaways. These were really the 3 things that I left and finished the internship feeling like. So the first thing is that SVN Miller was great, and that everyone should try it. I think it's a great internship, a great program with great people. They're established. They know what they're doing. I just don't have enough good things to say about it. And the second thing was having an active role as an intern in the business and doing work that matters is a huge difference. I've done 2 internships, and my first internship, I didn't really have a very involved part. I was kind of, shooed to the side. And that, I felt like I was wasting my time there. So with this internship, I wanted to make sure that I was doing something that mattered to the company. And I had that opportunity with SVN Miller, and it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was cool to see stuff that I'd been working on get talked about, discussed, brought up in front of all of the people in the office. And as an intern, that's a great feeling. And then the last one is that fun people make all the difference. The people at the office were great. Everybody was always in a good mood. Everybody's always, down for a good joke. Nobody's ever taken themselves too seriously, but at the same time, they take the work seriously. And that to me was a really interesting distinction. And it works, and it made for a great experience. So those are my 3 final takeaways, and this has been my summary of my internship. Thanks.